folks. Welcome to InfinityX from the Epic Podcast Studios here in Red Bank, New Jersey. This is InfinityX. We are InfinityX. We're running live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where we give a stage and a microphone to absolute human excellence in the pursuit of massive ecosystem merger opportunities that create infinite sales opportunities. And tonight is absolutely no different. We have Susan Sly joining us. How are you this evening, Susan?
I am doing great, David, and I want to thank you for having me on the show. I want to acknowledge everyone watching because obviously people are here because they want to leave with either some tips or strategies to better themselves and better their business. And it's my hope everyone leaves with at least one actionable item. So I'm excited to be here.
Incredible. Thank you so much. And we are going to be joined by my partner, Rob Gill, here in just a few minutes, Susan. But I always like to kick it off because I'm always interested in the evolution of the entrepreneur and the evolution of the massive success that you experienced. But to know where you're going, you have to know where you're from. Where are you from originally?
So I grew up in Canada, so right on the New York-Ontario border. I started my first business when I was 11 years old. And so I'm turning 50 next year. So I have been in business for decades. I've had quite an expansive career with a whole range of different things. But that first business I started was out of necessity. And I think, David, if we're looking at what's going on in the world right now, the latest statistic on Social Security said that Social Security is going to start diminishing by 2033. They thought that it was actually going to run out by 2032. Not sure what they're going to do about it, but we'll all be paying more taxes, I imagine. And we're seeing a lot of people turning to business as a side hustle, reinvigorating a second career. But I started my first business out of necessity because I went to my dad, David. I said, "Hey, can I have some money to buy Christmas gifts?" And he said, "Why don't you start a business?" And so I thought about what I want to start. He gave me a startup loan. I had 60 days to pay it back with interest. And I started that business. I learned a lot and I haven't looked back.
That's incredible. What kind of business was it?
Well, like anything, when you're thinking of starting a business, and on my show, the most recent survey I did is 50% of people are thinking of starting a business. It really starts with what your zone of genius is. So what is your zone of genius? Not just what you're passionate about, but what are you good at? Because if we all started businesses just of what we're passionate about, the failure rate of entrepreneurship would be higher than it is. But my zone of genius was arts and crafts at the tender age of 11. So I started making Christmas ornaments and I went door to door selling them. I had to do a business plan. I started with $40 in startup capital. I went and sold all of these Christmas ornaments. David, I got rejected. People rejected this 11-year-old girl with buck teeth trying to sell her Christmas ornaments. But I learned a lot and I made $80 and I paid my dad back his 40 plus interest. I reinvested the capital and I went off again. And then I made $120. And I thought, there's something to this entrepreneurship thing.
That's incredible at such a young age. And then you reinvested back into your business, which, from an intelligent deployment of capital standpoint, I think so many entrepreneurs really lack that guidance. And I wanted to key in on something that you just shared around Social Security. I could not agree with you more. If you look at debt to GDP in the United States, right? If you look at debt to sheer revenue in the United States, there's a massive gap. And there was one even when we went into COVID-19, right? Yeah. And so, from a preparation standpoint, businesses and people are just not prepared for that tax onslaught that looks like it's coming at us like a freight train, right?
Oh yeah, my show is called Raw and Real Entrepreneurship, and let's get raw and real, because one of the things in my research on this show and all of you is that you guys like to keep it raw and real, and your listeners don't want any nonsense. So there's a $3.2 trillion proposal that someone's got to pay for. So where are they going to pay for it? So one of the things that's being tabled is raising business taxes. Well, some people are like, yes, let's raise taxes on businesses. But what you're not thinking about is not all businesses are Apple and Google, who tend to have their head offices overseas in places like Ireland, so they don't pay any tax. What about all the restaurants restaurants in New Jersey and New York and all over the place. I grew up, our family business was the restaurant business. They haven't recovered. And now we're going into a second wave. They're still not recovered. They're going to get hit with taxes too. So raising taxes on business owners, in my humble opinion, is not the answer, but taxes are going to be raised on individuals, on businesses. They're going to be raised on capital gains. All of those people who traded meme stocks and you made a ton of money on AMC and GameStop and everything. Guess what, kids? You're going to be paying a ton of taxes. So the only legal way to really manage your tax situation is to have a business, because at the end of the day, raise taxes or not, business owners pay less in percentage in taxes than employees.
Absolutely. Oh man, I could take that statement and peel the onion and dissect that, and I can't wait to do so with you, because there's so many points to what you just shared that I totally agree with. We talk in the financial planning space all the time about how the individual who invented the 401k actually wrote a white paper about how he hates the fact that he invented the 401k, right? But it was meant to be the icing on top of the cake of pensions, and pensions kind of went away, right? But all of these challenges, all these problems, particularly even prior to the global pandemic coming down, people were turning a blind eye to, right? The fact that life expectancies have gotten greater, the fact that we're in a historically low tax environment in comparison to where we've been, 1948, 1962, et cetera. So, Susan, when you're either consulting to other entrepreneurs and or for yourself, what were some of the things that you did and that you had to pivot to during the pandemic that kept the cash flow so massively positive during 2020 and into 2021?
That's a huge question. And again, David, going back to what you and your team do, I want to throw out statistics. So we'll probably come back to this, but no one can be naive, because it's either you or your parents are in this situation. 25% of Americans have zero savings for retirement. 30% of Canadians have zero savings for retirement. And so you talk about pivot, and we'll get to this. So I co-founded in 2018 an artificial intelligence company, myself and 4 other guys. And there's a statistic that McKinsey came out with 2 years ago in 2019 that said by the year 2030, 800 million jobs were going to be displaced globally by artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning. Now, the reason I bring this up, Social Security. I have to stand on this little soapbox, David, if you humor me, because I don't want anyone to leave and think they shouldn't have a business, especially if you're over 50. You need to have a business. You need something, because I don't think your retirement plan is to be a Walmart greeter. But if we look at this perfect storm, you talk about pivoting. No one could have anticipated the pandemic, but the motto of MIT is this: past behavior predicts future behavior. We're all old enough to remember 2009 SARS. And what happened just before that? Oh, the Great Recession, right? Mm-hmm. So history repeats itself. So to think, oh, okay, well, we're in this, going through COVID, we're going through Delta, all the different things that are happening, it's going to happen again. So the number one thing is we have to be adaptable. So what did we do during the pandemic? I will never forget, David. So I'm super geeky and weird. I wanted to be a doctor going through college. And I was looking, when the whole thing with COVID started to come out in January of 20, I looked at the R naught, and the R naught, for people who don't know, that is the multiplier of a disease. So the R naught of SARS was about 2, COVID was 4. And I looked at my husband, Chris, and I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is going to be very aggressive. And so we gather our team together. I'm like, listen, guys, we have technology in the vault that can help. So we use our AI company. We do computer vision, and we have some very big partnerships. Some I can disclose, some I can't. We've done work with the Mayo Clinic, CVS Health, and the Veterans Association. The hospitals love those guys. And so I said, we need to get our technology that we were going to release, like Apple, we have technology for the next several years in release cycles. And I said, we need to get the technology out. We need to do something. So what we did is we accelerated development of technology that would allow us to use artificial intelligence to pre-screen patients. And so we implemented
Wow.
that at Mayo, we implemented that at the VA, and it was aggressive. We pulled, our team were like, guys, we have to do this, because if you can help, you must help, right? And so that was one of the things we did. And then I own a digital agency that specializes in solopreneurs. And I brought all of my staff together. I'm like, listen, we have to help these business owners pivot. So we had people who were terrified, David, of social media, people in their 60s with businesses. Suddenly they were on TikTok. They were doing Instagram reels. They were promoting businesses, starting businesses. That's my message. Everyone, you need to have multiple streams of income. You need to have a business. It's the bottom line, because the government is not, if you're waiting for I'm going to get some hate DMs, I know it, but if you're waiting for the government, be waiting a long time.
Yep. Oh my God. I could not agree. And you know what? And the pandemic, it sounds like, was actually something that was a positive for you and for the escalation of your practice and the solopreneurs that you were consulting, which I want to dive really, really deep into. I know at our firm, it's so interesting, Susan, because the evolution of InfinityX actually started when my partner, Rob Gill, approached me and said, we're seeing exponential growth in our sales opportunities and our sales meetings due to the different verticals and ecosystem mergers that we created with massive, influencers, people like yourself. And as a result of that, we saw an uptick in our conversations of above 19 times, right? And so InfinityX actually started from the standpoint of, hey, let's educate folks on, and particularly in the financial services arena, of what we're doing. Right. And it was intended to be a one-time thing. Well, we noticed that if you put a cap on that growth, then you're minimalizing your thinking. And so that's where the branding of InfinityX really came from. It's you create infinite opportunity for yourself when you have a larger stage and a larger microphone, and also putting out the message that, through those larger stages and larger microphones, there's alternate sources of income opportunity that get created from that. So, man, I could not agree with you more.
And to your point, David, I was having a conversation with an associate professor of robotics, and we were talking about influencer culture. And he said, Susan, do you know that all of these PhD candidates, that the biggest schools, Harvard, Stanford, MIT, they're looking at the social media profiles and seeing if this candidate, this PhD candidate in robotics or AI, that they have a brand. And the ones, get this, because guess what? The ones who are branded are getting the funding dollars, because who does the funding, right? Big companies. If they think this person has a voice, so we're seeing it trickle down into every aspect of our lives. One of my good friends is Glenn Stearns of Bear Stearns. Some people may know Glenn from Undercover Billionaire. And so Glenn is the real deal. And so he and Mindy, they've got 3 podcasts they're running. They're putting out unique content videos on Instagram almost every single day. They've got their new brand called Kind Lending. And he has had so many ups and downs. He sold a company, got diagnosed with cancer the very next day. A little thing called the recession. Hello, Bear Stearns in the recession. Yet he just keeps on coming back. And if anyone's taking notes, I want you to write this word down: resilient. You've got to be resilient. You've got to adapt to your terrain so that if a pandemic hits, a recession hits, what David is teaching on this show is so important. Be resilient, have multiple streams of income.
Susan, and with multiple streams of income and with influencers in mind as well, it's an honor and a privilege for me to introduce you to my partner, Rob Gill. Rob, are you there, brother?
Hey, Susan, how are you?
Hey, Rob, it's great to see you.
Good. It's great seeing you. Happy Trajectory Tuesday. I just walked in and I heard resilience and I heard Bear Stearns and, I heard entrepreneurs and funding and everything else. Wow. So excited. Love your energy. Love your passion. Let me kind of just let Dave drive so I could find my place. And then I'd love to kind of just, really engage and see what kind of value that I could add to the conversation.
Awesome.
Susan, when before we were talking about preparation, preparation, if you can call it preparation, but preparation for the pandemic, right? And I think that Rob and I see on just about a daily basis businesses that are positioned well, cash flow wise and financially, and risk management wise, and then we see businesses that are really, really, really exposed. If you take a step back, and by the way, I'd heard you say that you got your PhD. Where'd you get your PhD from, by the way?
Oh, I don't have my PhD, but I'm
Oh, I'm
currently
sorry.
studying. I'm currently studying at MIT. So on top of running this company, we're hiring 60 people right now. I just made another offer today. I have a bunch of my staff flying in. I'm at home today, but into our office, and I'm studying at MIT. So on top of all of it, and 5 kids, 2 grandkids, and multiple businesses. So. But cash flow statements are one of my favorite topics. So we could talk accounting all day long.
Wow. So Susan, that's incredible. 5 kids and how many grandkids did you say?
2. We just had another one, a little boy, Christian.
Congratulations. That is so awesome. And you also could build rockets too, is what I'm hearing.
Not yet, but it's very interesting when we look at artificial intelligence and how it's permeating every single sector. So one of the latest statistics that I read is businesses who are incorporating artificial intelligence, and we could talk about every type of business and how they could incorporate it, their productivity is increasing by 78%.
Unbelievable. Because they have distinctions. They're getting rid of the things that don't work, and they're tripling down on what works in a very fast way, right? So that's basically that I could glean from what you said there. I guess first of all, where is home, by the way? Where are you located?
I live in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Awesome. A very good friend of mine, Dolph DeRoos, New York Times bestselling author, Real Estate Riches. He is an affiliate of Epic. He's in Arizona as well. And, we were just with him recently out in Utah for another ecosystem partner that we have. And it's about, for us, merging ecosystems. So 1 + 1, it may not equal $1 trillion, but it does equal business acceleration in a way that, for us, we've gone from, to David's point, 8 to over 600 new sales meetings a month, based on really kind of creating good ecosystem mergers with people that are making a difference in the world, and at the same time, providing value and education along the way. So I'm sitting here in awe of everything you just said so far, and the relationship capital that you must be part of is incredible. And to hear that you were going to you're in the process of hiring 60 new people. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So we're hiring 60 people, and I love that word ecosystem. And that's the other thing for everyone watching and listening, because your network equates to your net worth. So one of my mentors is Harvey McKay. Harvey wrote Swim with the Sharks or Get Eaten Alive. He's written 7 New York Times bestsellers. He's turning 90 soon. And so this is a story. So, when I'm a guest on a show, or when people are guests on my show, and I would love to have you guys on my show, I love when people tell stories, because people remember stories, but they don't remember anything else you say, all the stats and everything. So anyway, Harvey calls me 2 years ago. And so keep in mind, he's 86 at this particular day. He calls me. He's like, Susan, guess what? I said, what, Harvey? He said, I just completed every item on my bucket list. I said, that's outstanding. He said, ask me a question. I said, what do you want me to ask you? He said, ask me what I'm going to do now. I said, okay, what are you going to do now? He goes, I'm writing another one. And then literally the man comes out with an 8th book and a 9th book. And this is really funny. Then he calls me. He's like, Susan, I won't say the woman's name, but it's really funny, because if I did, everyone would know her. He's like, so-and-so's out and you're in. I said, I'm in for what? He said, well, I want you to endorse my book, and you're going to be, on the book cover with Lou Holtz. Now, I secretly fangirl over Lou Holtz. I love Mr. Holtz. I have a photo with him in my office. Love him. He's my secret husband. My husband knows this though. Anyway, so the point is this: when your ecosystem has depth and you're investing in the ecosystem, when a very famous brand name person who maybe spent some time in prison and has a national magazine and everything else is supposed to be on a book cover, but says, I'll do it, but doesn't get back and misses the timing, you end up on the book cover with Mr. Lou Holtz. And you've
right.
got to be building out your ecosystem. So going back to the hiring at Radius, what we do is we work our ecosystem. So one of my employees, he worked for GoDaddy for 10 years. He knows outstanding engineers. One of my co-founders, he was the CTO at the largest healthcare database in the world, Amino. Another one worked for Wells Fargo, American Express, Apple. So we have all this depth. And so we don't have to just put up ads. We do because we want the best and the brightest. Yep. But again, it goes back to that ecosystem. Same thing with sales. We just, I just closed a deal, a 5-year deal that is, multiple 8 figures. I won't go into the details, but that came from my ecosystem. Thank you. It's like, who do you know? Who do you know? Who can you add value to? And don't go into your ecosystem going, what can they give me? Exactly. It's what can I do to contribute? Don't keep score. And then when you get the phone call, you end up on the book cover with Mr. Holtz, you get the multiple 8-figure deal, and you end up hiring the right people.
You just said something powerful. And I want to just play. First of all, that was
thank God I did. I don't
that was unbelievable. Let me just thank you. And the thing that I try and talk to the team about is don't chase money, right? And if you want to be the best at what you do, you got to add more value than anyone else in your space for what you do. But you said something even after those phenomenal points, and you said don't keep score. Mm-hmm. And people that keep score, whether it's I don't get paid that much on that case, so I'm only going to do what I get paid for, right? I see that a lot in my space, right? I'm only going to do what I get a piece of it. And I feel really bad when I hear that from any person that says that, because they're missing the boat on the bigger picture. And you just hit the nail on the head. The guy that went to jail or came out of jail and didn't return a phone call because you made high-level relationship capital. And now because of that, you're on the cover with Lou Holtz. Incredible. By the way, I'm a Notre Dame fan. What is your secret love affair with Lou Holtz? Does it go back to Notre Dame or is it something different?
Yes.
Excellent.
Huge. I'm a fan of really good coaches because, people talk about players, but it's the coaches really that make the players.
Yeah. Yeah. And were you a fan of Notre Dame when Holtz was there?
So that does go way back. And the answer is yes, but don't ask me about stats.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I was born into Notre Dame, like my family, but Lou Holtz, as you know, won the national championship in 1988. And his ability to motivate men in an influential manner with integrity is phenomenal. And I love great coaches. I come from, locally here in New Jersey, my sister, she happened to marry into a very basketball rich family here in New Jersey, which was Bob Hurley, the coach of St. Anthony's high school basketball. He later went on to be in the Hall of Fame. His 2 children, Bobby Jr. and Danny, are both college coaches right now. And one of them played in the NBA. So I've always been surrounded by great coaches. And then even when I entered the business world, I've always had great teachers. And I think it's because if you put yourself in a position, you're going to find the great teacher that's going to help you go to the next phase. And I got to tell you, what you're sharing is totally incredible. Thank you so much.
Can we do a quick John Wooden story? So we'll if we're going to talk about great coaches. Wow. So this applies to business, everyone. And so Harvey McKay, was in a meeting with John Wooden, and John said to Harvey, he said, do you want to know the secret of my success? And Harvey's like, yeah, who doesn't want to know the secret of John Wooden's success? And he said, it's the socks.
Yeah,
and Harvey's
you don't want to get, you don't want to get blisters.
Yes. Yep. So making sure the players had the right socks and they were changing the socks if the socks were damp. And ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing. You might be, if you don't know anything about sports, oftentimes, and this is, I'll just put this out there, in technology, I'm often the only woman in the room. So I start a lot of sales meetings. We're talking football, we're talking hockey. I was raised by a single dad. So, I was raised with sports. And I was a professional athlete for a hot minute, many years ago. God. But it's the small details. So here are some things. When you do a sales meeting, you mentioned 600 sales presentations. I know you guys do, but are you sending a note afterwards to say thank you? Are you sending an email to say, hey, thank you for your time? And here's a little little share I'll give everyone. Write in a notebook something someone said. So you say something like, hey, David, thank you so much for that meeting. And I wrote this down. I loved what you said about whatever. And people appreciate that.
Yeah.
One of the biggest deals I've ever closed. So in my career, and David and I were emailing about this. So in my career, I've done about $2 billion in sales.
Jeez.
$2 billion.
Unbelievable. Wow.
In 3 separate verticals. So technology, health, and fitness. And one of the biggest deals that I ever closed, it was paying attention to detail. If you take nothing away from me, this is one thing. So we're in a meeting, and I want to preface this. So our company was invited to compete against 2 other computer vision companies in the United States. And whoever was going to win for accuracy was going to get a pilot agreement. So so we're like, yes, we want to compete. One company couldn't even be bothered, guys, to fly out and present their findings in person. And this was before COVID.
Wow.
They said, oh, we'll just present on video.
Yeah.
So this is what I did. I found out when the other company was flying in. I made sure we presented first.
Awesome.
I also found out when decision day was and exactly what time it was. So after our meeting, I took copious notes. There was this funny joke that came up, and I'm not going to give details about it, but let's just say I made sure I spent $178 and I UPS'd a package so it would arrive 1 hour before decision day. And I said, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for your time. And as you're considering the best team for this opportunity, I want you to know we pay attention to details. We will create more value than our competition. And I went on and on and on. And then the second page of the letter was, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity. I send this package. They open it in an hour. They opened it at 9. Decision day was 10 a.m. that morning. And we got the deal. And we embarked on a year-long project with them, which just is now being extended to almost 1,000 locations.
Wow. That is, I'm so humbled by that. That's incredible.
Attention to detail and manners. Where are your manners? Like, hello, like, thank you, please. Thank you for the opportunity. Let's figure out a way to work together. Like, just as you said, Rob, adding value to people.
Yeah. I've always learned one of the greatest things in the Tony Robbins training that I've been part of. And he talks about how to create lasting change in people with integrity, of course. And the thing that really stood out, it's like a 5, 6, 7 step approach. But one of the things he said, and I organically did this, but it really kind of hit home when I heard him say this. Don't try and step one, don't try and have people meet them where you are. To your point, Susan, meet them where they are. Yeah. You know what I mean? And once you meet people there where they are, and you just said something else that I picked up on, in order to be able to have these, level 5 listening strategies that you had, by doing that, you probably created high level rapport, including your nice email, your nice follow-up, and your overnight package, and, being cordial and everything else. And when you build a rapport with folks and you meet them where they are, it allows you with integrity to get leverage. Then once you have leverage, you can begin to talk about who you are and what you bring, that could help them. Right. And there's a couple more steps after that, but everything you just said reminded me of that. And success leaves clues. There's no doubt that, your reputation precedes you. Your level of success is incredible. I could feel your energy. I could feel it, how it impacts the nervous system versus just having the information in the head. Right. And once information is in the nervous system and you can really convey your unique heroic identity, what you can then do is be able to move people with influence to where you want them to go. And I have no doubt that you know how to move people at the highest level. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you for that. And again, it's like, what is it? What are the little things like the socks? This will be called the socks show. What are the little things like the socks, like sending those emails, paying attention to details? Another tip I'll give everyone. So a good friend of mine is Mark Victor Hansen, who co-wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. And so Mark and Crystal live here in Scottsdale, and I've known Mark for years. And so one night we go out for dinner. And I don't expect Mark to pick up the tab. In fact, I call the restaurant in advance. I'm like, I don't care if Mark Victor Hansen wants to take the tab or wants to split it. You guys have my credit card. When the bill comes, there's no bill coming because it's handled. Right.
Yeah.
So then Mark's so appreciative, everything. The next day I get an email and it's like, he's introducing me to this person and that person and that person. And like John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur on Fire, I had him on my show. And, my show is really designed to help that fledgling entrepreneur navigate things like the QSBS, the Qualified Small Business Founders Exemption, where you can exit your business if it's a C Corp for $10 million tax-free. Who doesn't want to know this stuff? But it's just fundamental good, sound advice. And I was like, I love doing my show. I don't have time right now to go actively look at guests, but I'm just going to go out there and do the things I usually do and allow those things to come back to me. And Mark just flooded my inbox with all of these amazing introductions. And so that's another tip. This happened to be Saturday night. So my daughter has a new boyfriend, guys.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And so we're meeting the new boyfriend and going back to old fashioned manners. So we go out for dinner and the bill comes and it's already paid. So this sweet boy on the way in made sure the bill was handled. Yes, he's impressing the parents, but guess what, guys? He did a good job.
Awesome.
He did a good job. And then he came for Sunday night dinner. He brought my favorite bottle of wine. Like, it's little details like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well said. And thank you for sharing that. It sounds like you're on a rocket ship right now. And I guess, the question I have, what does it look like for you for the next 5 years, over the next 5 years?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question because it doesn't look like I thought it would. So I had reached a point in my career, probably in 2016, where I was having a crisis. And I'm not afraid to say that in front of everyone. Women have midlife crises too, right? And so I was having an identity crisis and looking in the mirror and going, if I had gone to Africa and I had become really sick. I've been to Africa many times. My oldest daughter is from there. And I came back and I was very, very sick. And I went to several doctors. They didn't know what was wrong with me. And I'm in my bed and, I've got the blinds closed. I felt literally like I was dying. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, God, if all there is, what is it I haven't done yet in my career? Because I've done everything from be a prison guard to owning a fitness club to being a television celebrity. I've had this huge career. And there was this part of me that I hadn't fulfilled. And so it was really interesting because around that exact same time, two people called me on the same day and they're both pastors. And they're like, Susan, you're supposed to go back into technology. Now, here's the funny thing. I haven't written a line of code since 1992.
Wow.
But here's the power of purpose and adding value. So I was working in 89, 90, 91, 92 on early facial recognition algorithms, coding them.
Oh my God.
And we were using them to catch serial sex offenders and quantify crime scenes.
Love it.
Then I go into the health and fitness world. I buy a health club. I'm doing that whole deal and, health and wellness, go back to school, study homeopathic medicine. I put down technology, but there I am dying going, what is it I haven't done? And there was this part of me that was like, I really miss technology. And so I started, to get better. I went into digital marketing, not the front end as much, but the back end, like building campaigns, like really sick stuff and adding custom code. And then I grew my little agency. We became the #1 agency. We onboarded 600 clients in a year. And I'm getting calls from all of these. I was speaking at the largest digital marketing conferences. Plus I was doing speaking events where Tony Robbins is speaking, Pitbull speaking, and all this stuff. And people are looking at me and going, well, what are you doing now? And it was really the out of the crisis and the chaos came the purpose. And I want to say to everyone watching and listening, if you're going through something, if you're going through a medical diagnosis, if you've got something going on with a family member, you're going through a divorce, whatever it is you're going through, there is an opportunity in that chaos, but sometimes you have to be still long enough to let whatever it is set in that's supposed to set in. So from there, I ended up meeting the guys who were co-founding and starting this AI company. And they were like, could you help us us raise money. I'm like, sure, raising money is easy. Like that's, if I'm good at one thing, it's like that, right? So I come in, we raised 7.1 million in seed funding, which in startups, that's like unicorn territory for your friends and family round. But I made some calls. I have going back to the network, right? The ecosystem. And I became the vice president, then the president, then the co-CEO and co-founder. And then recently we signed something that essentially says, if I leave the company, that, certain things will happen, right? So the next 5 years, this is what I'm doing. We're going to take this company all the way to an exit. We already have a 9-figure valuation since 2018, which is huge. And we're embarking on several projects in the healthcare and retail sector and getting ready to do like a huge media campaign and, all of that stuff. So this is what I'm going to be doing for a while, and teaching people how to start businesses and make smart decisions from the beginning, which is why I love what you guys do.
But you are radiating success all over this. Thank you so much for sharing. Let me turn it back to Dave. Dave, do you have some questions?
I do.
I'll come back in.
Thank you, Rob. Susan, you're a mega power. This is unbelievable.
Thank you.
What are you seeing?
If I could say one thing,
please.
I think this is without a doubt a top 3, if not a top 2 speaker on our show.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
And we've had once a week for the last 70 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just saying that because we talked about Lou
check
Holtz.
check the tape. I've never said it on tape. I've never said it on.
He has never said that on tape. No, this is live and direct. Susan,
we haven't talked about Vince Lombardi yet. So as long as we get to talk about Vince at some point, then I'll take the top 3.
Listen, you're talking to 2 sports guys here, so we will definitely hit on Vince Lombardi. But let's hit on something else. What are business owners doing wrong right now? What are you seeing as a commonality? What are they doing wrong in today's environment?
That's a great question, Dave. So the first thing is they are 100% not building the right infrastructure. You need to start with the end in mind. And so what is the end in mind? What is your exit strategy? And so many people don't think about what their exit strategy is going to be. So there are a lot of interesting exit strategy opportunities for business owners. I'll just go over several of them if people want to take notes. So one is, if you're doing like a physical startup of some kind, you're going to do a C Corp, you might want to do an ESOP, so an employee stock option purchase plan.
Look at you. You're bringing in some high level planning now. How about a leveraged ESOP? I love it.
So let's say, I'll just make this scenario up. So let's say the 3 of us, we're going to start a company, and, I'm not going to speculate, but I'm going to guess none of us are 20 years old. And we say, you know what, we're going to do this for maybe 7 to 10 years, but we want a solid tax-free exit opportunity. So an ESOP allows us to be able to sell our shares back to the company and take out money tax-free. I have friends who built a multi-billion-dollar company and they took multiple 8 figures out with the ESOP. So that's legitimate. Awesome. Number 2 is with the C Corp. So if you do like a Delaware C and you do the QSBS, and as long as you do that for 5 years, so the 3 of us start a company, we have a Delaware C. When we go to exit, we would each get 10 million tax-free, depending on the size of our exit and what our shares are worth, but you have to hold it for 5 years. Some people, they want to just do, a straight exit where they sell their business or whatever. So that's number 1, start with the end in mind. What kind of exit are you going to have? Number 2 is your infrastructure, and you can't cut corners. So thinking about things like your insurance. I know it's boring. Thinking about your accounting, about.
Can we stop? Can we play with that for 1 second? So in the space of insurance, how do you feel about key man, key woman, section 162 double bonus plan strategies where you create golden handcuffs, deferred comp strategies, premium finance strategies? How does that factor into your model?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a complicated one, right? Because it really requires the business owner to think very deeply about those things. The golden handcuffs, as an example, like, is that something you want? A lot of younger entrepreneurs, they want to, I was doing a show recently and we were talking about influencer entrepreneurs. Like, I just want to have my Instagram and I want to be an entrepreneur. True entrepreneurship, you're thinking about things like the golden handcuffs. You're thinking about things like partnerships. Here's a statistic. Partnerships have a much higher failure rate than solo businesses, right?
Really?
So
Wow.
the other thing about infrastructure is making sure you have advisors for your business and including someone who can mediate discussions. At our company, we have a philosophy that if we've got an issue, the 5 of us get on a Zoom or in a room, we don't leave until it's handled.
Beautiful.
But it's stuff like that. And the third thing I want to say, the number one reason businesses fail is cash flow. If you don't understand how to read a cash flow statement, you should not be going into business. Your cash flow, I am advising a startup right now. We're about to do a big WeFunder. All my boards, I have no more time in my life for boards right now, but I'm sitting on this board for this startup and we're about to do a WeFunder raise and we're in the conscious consumerism e-tail space. And one of the things is like, every single meeting, if I'm sitting on your board, I want to see a cash flow statement. I want to see your P&L. Don't just talk to me about your EBITDA and stuff to show off and think you're fancy. Like how much money is in the bank? What's your burn rate? You know?
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. Yeah, Dave. I'm sorry.
Unbelievable. No, it's and Susan, like, and when you take that approach with your business partners, when you take that approach with your clients, yeah, you have to obviously you hire slow and you fire fast, right? So can you share also about what you're seeing in terms of staffing and in terms of talent that is surrounding the top level executives, that what you're looking at personally with your business, but then also what you're advising other people to do in terms of creating that board of directors and creating that infrastructure underneath?
That's my favorite question. Thank you for asking me that. I love this question.
Can I just say your energy is just infectious. I just want you to know that. Go ahead.
Thank you so much.
It's unbelievable.
I think maybe it's because I'm from the Northeast. That's why you just love me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just keep it like Jersey tough, man. So
where are you from?
Yeah. Well, I'm from Toronto.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Yeah. But I fired Winter. So that's a whole other story. Let's talk about hiring. So I give no credit to myself. I learned this from a friend of mine who's got his company is number 7 on Glassdoor right now. And do people know how freaking hard that is to get into the top 10 on Glassdoor? Because people will make up crap and pretend they were your employees and say stupid stuff about you. Like, you know, just that's not true. But he got to top 10 with a 70-person outfit. So I want to share what I learned from him because I'm using this now. So number 1, it's how you write your job offer. So we just put something up on Workable, and I was hiring a project manager that was based out of a very specific city in a very specific state to work with our largest client. And I put Easter eggs in all my job descriptions. So I want to see if you're paying attention. I'll say, put this in the title. If the person doesn't put what I asked them to put in the title, I don't even consider their application. So that's the first thing. It's how you write it. Don't hesitate. You know, I'm Tony Robbins trained to. Don't hesitate to say positive attitude, no drama, no nonsense, whatever you want to say. So out of that, we had 6 applicants. And in this job market, like it's tough. You got to pay a lot. You got to give great benefits. Sometimes you even have to give away part of your ESOP. And of the 6 applicants, we got 2 rock stars, and it was tough to really choose. So that's number 1. Number 2, I believe in a 3-step interview process because chances are one of you is going to love the candidate. The other 2 people might not. So I interview based on things like work-life balance. How do you handle challenges? I give scenarios, whereas my partners, they'll interview a little more technically. So we all interview separately and then we meet together. If the person passes that, and if there are 3 things, if they ask these 3 things, I immediately do not hire them. Number 1 is, what is my compensation going to be? Number 2, what are my work hours going to be? And number 3, when can I expect raises and bonuses? And if they ask any of those things, you're not working for me. The next thing I do, because I was a prison guard, I use a piece of software and called Instant Checkmate. And I do a background check on you. And I look at everything. If you bounce checks in 1990, I might forgive you. But if you all hit someone or you had workman's comp claims like 18 times, I am not hiring you. I almost said I'm not hiring your ASS, but I didn't say that. So I'm not hiring you. So then after that, after we get through all of that, Then the next stage is generally, if possible, a face-to-face. I want to eat a meal with that person and see, going back to the manners, if they have manners, if they can handle that situation, then they get the offer. So I am very tenacious about it. And
You are one
yeah.
badass grandmother. I'll tell you that
Thank you.
right now. No question about it.
Unbelievable.
But seriously, do a background check, because if that person has had several workman's comp claims, oh, this is my other favorite thing. So the guys that are sitting around, and I'm expected to build the sales and marketing team, right? And I do that from a very different place, because every company should have 4 streams of leads. So there's inside sales, outside sales, digital leads, and then there's referral leads, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, one of our verticals is the gas station convenience store sector. So I want to hire someone. A lot of these meetings are, I'm just going to lay it out, guys, because why? You didn't stay here all this time for BS. So in that sector, a lot of the guys, it's a lot of men in that sector. They're in their 40s, they're in their 50s. So guess who I'm hiring? Not a 21-year-old, no, I'm hiring someone who's actually older, been around the block. And yeah, I'll ask questions. I know these aren't HR compliant, so send me a DM if you don't like it. But this particular client, they go for steak dinners.
Unbelievable.
They drink a lot of coffee in the morning. I'm like, do you like steak dinners? Do you drink coffee? If they don't, they're probably not going to get the job, because they're not going to fit in with the ideal client that I have.
Incredible.
So
Unbelievable.
But the first person I hired, so they were like, okay, Susan, who are you hiring for sales marketing? I said, I'm hiring a general counsel. And the guys are like, we're a startup. We don't need a general counsel. And I pull out our P&L. I pull out all of I said, this is how much we've spent on legal fees. We're hiring a general counsel, and she starts September 20th. She's already working for us, but that was the first hire I did, because again, it goes back to this. If you build your house on the rock, you're going to build a very beautiful, stable house. But if you build it on the sand, just quote my favorite book, you're going to sink into the ocean.
Susan, incredible. For all the, you know what, for every business owner that's out there right now, she just dropped, like, I'm not even going to say like $1 million worth of information on this episode. Take that, rewind it back, play it back on your own, because this is taped, right? People,
this is taped. This is live stream. This is.
Listen, you're building, as you build companies, one of the biggest challenges is cash flow and is lawsuits, right?
Yep.
And if you know, one of the things that we did here at Epic is we have a law firm of which the owner happens to be a partner here. I'll tell you about him in a second. And then we also have an SEC attorney for other businesses that we have outside of here, because of exactly what you just said. And by the way, one of the things that we did that really helped us accelerate our sales appointments is we started creating LLC partners that didn't have licenses in what we do, but the LLC had a license, and that allowed, let's say, for example, you may not have an insurance license, right? I'm just using you as a hypothetical. But you have an audience that really is interested in proper planning when it comes to really understanding the protection side of business. We would make somebody like you an LLC partner. You would drive traffic to our team. We would do financial planning in the space of insurance, and there would be a compensation model there based on the ecosystem merger. And we had done that with quite a few folks. And that's why we went from 6 to 600, 700. In September, we're going to have over 1,000 appointments. Now,
outstanding.
It's incredible, right? And because of that, we had to hire a law firm, because to your point, we have to do a background check. And listen, everybody makes mistakes, but we have to do a background check, because we're getting this stuff approved with the Banking and Insurance Commission of New Jersey when it comes to what we're doing. You are the bet. Now you're going to be my number one guest. And here's the frame. Ready? The frame is everything you just said about not only providing more value than everybody else, right? Not only, having integrity across the board, understanding balance sheets, not just EBITDA, but understanding cash flow, understanding the balance sheets, understanding the P&L. And then on top of that, you just broke down the legal component, why it's so important on a fit for exit strategy. And also you did talk about an ESOP. We could privately talk about a leveraged ESOP. I could share some stuff with you in that space that I know. But you just hit the nail on the head on everything. And whoever's listening to the show right now, I'm telling you right now, take a lot of notes, because this is one of my my happiest interviews, but also everything she just said told me that what we're doing is right.
Absolutely.
Right. Like,
And
it's
I
incredible.
have to throw this in to ice the cake on cyber, because this just happened. So a friend of mine is part of a medical practice, and they just had a ransomware attack. All their patient records.
Yeah.
They had cyber insurance, but their IT team had continued to back up all the records. So guess what they ended up paying? Zero. Right. And I can't emphasize that enough. And, when we're seeing, everyone's like, oh, don't go to law school, there's no need for lawyers. The biggest growing sector of legal is cybersecurity. And I had Rick Jordan, he's doing an amazing cyber IPO on my show. And Rick is a global cybersecurity expert. He's been on every single show out there, ABC, NBC, Fox, you name it. And if you're not paying attention to your cyber, oh my gosh, that's a whole other episode. I did a whole course on this at MIT, and it's like, what protocol are you using? What are you doing? And here's the other thing you mentioned, Dave, because I love that question about hiring. Do you know the number one source of cyber attacks is through employee emails? And so everyone thinks it's the tech team's responsibility. It's not the tech team's responsibility. It's all your employees. So one of the things we're doing, every employee that comes in, whether it's a virtual assistant, lawyer, whatever, that not only are their computers secure, but they're not opening attachments. Here's another quick story. This person received an invoice for $100,000 from a known vendor. They went ahead and paid it. It was a cyber attack. The people emptied out their whole bank account because there's something called spear phishing, where they look at known, and so with all of my staff and my different companies, it's like every month we're doing cyber update, making sure everyone's caches are cleared. If you are unsure, you don't open an attachment, please, everyone, pay attention, because we could have a whole political discussion on cyber attacks if we want to, but the reality is that every kind of business, I don't care what kind of business you're in, you're a restaurant, you're a dry cleaner, you're, an accountant, attorney, you have to pay attention to that.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I like to, Danny, can we go to some Q&A? Would that be okay? And before we do that, I just want to give everybody on this call a quick reminder on September 23rd, Thursday, September 23rd. My partner, Susan, his name is Sean Callaghy. He founded a company called Unblinded, which is, the number one sales training company out there for organizations on how to go from hello to yes with integrity. He's also on the board of the American Foundation for the Blind, and he's co-chairing an event where it's going to be the 100-year anniversary for the AFB, in which they're going to open up a time capsule from 1934 from Helen Keller. And it's going to be an unbelievable event. There's an A-list, I can't say it yet, but there's an A-list musician, entertainer that's going to be there. And the table captains, to your point, they are loaded with former New York Giants like Lawrence Taylor, Harry Carson. They're working on, Bill Parcells. It's not done yet. Bucky Dent from the Yankees in the 70s, Rich Goose Gossage. And they are really bringing in Eric Dickerson, one of the greatest running backs of all time, is going to be a table captain, and all that's happening. So everybody on here, let's not forget about that. There's a lot of energy that's going in that direction. And we're really excited about it because ecosystem mergers allows myself and David, and you'll appreciate this, to be in the space of a private gathering with some folks that are really making changes in the world. And we're excited about that. What I would love, because your knowledge is incredible, and I know there's probably people, I can't see anything on the screen, but is anybody looking for to ask Susan
the viewership is massive here, Susan. If you have a question for Susan Sly, please raise your hand in
I don't mind
in the
chat.
chat.
If you want, can you unmute somebody for a question?
We can go ahead and unmute somebody.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, we do have a question that came in from Nikhil Bond.
By the way, Nikhil has VAs, Susan, so hit him with both machine guns and let him know the risks that he has with his VAs when it comes to the businesses. that we're doing.
I have a lot of VAs too. I hire
Yeah.
my VAs out of onlinejobs.ph out of the Philippines. And I have a whole,
Yeah.
I'm just going to turn it into white paper. A friend of mine, she's a major YouTuber. She specializes in dealing with narcissists. She's like, how do you hire VAs? So I sat at her beach house one day and I wrote like a 9-page paper on a hiring practice for VAs.
God.
So I've had my top VA for 6 years. And, you know, people are like, how do you do what you do? Like I'm the CEO of a massive 9-figure company. So that's like 70 hours a week, but I still put out YouTube videos and stuff like that. All my VAs do my stuff. So here's the question. Do you have any morning rituals? Yes. So I get up at around 4:30 in the morning and I'm intentional. So the first words I say in my head are 10 affirmations. I am blessed. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am happy. I am whole. I am loving. I am generous. I am valued. I am wise, and I am safe. And then I get up and I'm like, okay, God, I'm a believer. So I thank you, God. I'm so ready for this day. And then it's all about black coffee. I'm really fussy about my black coffee. I won't drink bad
I love
black coffee. Yes. So good, right?
Yes,
like it has
the
to be
best.
good.
Yes.
And I drink one called bitches brew. I'm not
That's
even
right.
kidding.
Can I get some? I want some bitches brew.
Bitches brew. Yeah.
Bitches brew. And it's organic. It's delicious. So then I go and I meditate for about 45 minutes and pray. Then I come in my office, I do some journaling, and I take a look at my schedule. And if my schedule isn't aligned with my goals, I will get rid of things. And then I have my littlest one is 12. I make sure I drive her to school every morning. I get a workout in, often 2 workouts a day. So after this show, I'm getting on my Peloton. I already ran intervals this morning. And I don't do work on Sundays. I call them sacred Sundays. And my husband and I, we've been together for 21 years. We had some rough patches. We almost got divorced. I'll tell you anything on a show. I don't care. And we managed to get our marriage back in line. And he's the great love of my life. And I call them sacred, sexy Sundays for a reason. Anyway, so that's my schedule for hiring
Sexy
VAs.
Sundays.
Naked.
I love it.
Yeah.
Sexy Sundays. Yeah.
By the way, Susan, and for everyone listening, I don't know if anyone's picking up on what's happening right now, but the success leaves clues, including Sundays. And what Susan just talked about was getting up at 4:30, rituals, habits, and there's really no coincidence. I mean, at the end of the day, if you do that and add 1%, you could maybe achieve what Susan's achieving. And thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that, Susan.
You're welcome. And Nikhil, if you want to reach out to me on susansly.com, I'll be happy to set up a Zoom with you. I can give you, my strategies for that. Yeah. So David wants to know who in your family was your biggest mentor or role model growing up? And and shouts out to you, David. I think we met, it was just when Hurricane Sandy was starting. I got this is so cool. I was calling. I was flying to Washington, DC to do like an event with some really cool people, let's put it that way. And I got the last plane out of Newark to fly to Washington. And I was in Washington at the Ritz during Hurricane Sandy with Harvey McKay, with some Charles Krauthammer, the late Charles Krauthammer from Fox.
Yes.
Yep. Rest in peace. He was a badass. And so there were 9 of us and we were speculating on the election and everything we called actually came true. It's a cool story. Anyway, so who is my biggest mentor and role model growing up? Unquestionably, for organization, it was my grandmother. I was raised by my grandmother and my single dad, but I want to give shouts out to my dad. My dad was an engineer and he worked on some really cool projects. And in the 70s, there weren't a lot of single dads. And that's why, even though I'm an advocate for women, I'm a freaking advocate for men. Men, I'm going to riff off just for a minute, boys, but men get treated like crap all the time by women. And so, like shouts out to the dads and the single dads. So I was raised by my single dad. My mom had, gone her way. And my dad he's the one who taught me curiosity. He's the one who taught me early age. I was reading The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I was reading the Torah. I was reading, all sorts of different things. And my dad is the one who said, Susan, you can really do anything you want. And so when he was teaching me how to drive, I had to learn a stick shift. I'm like, everyone's driving automatic. Why do I have to drive a stick? And he's like, so you could drive a race car or a tractor, because they're both manual. I was like, okay. So, my dad is still alive. He's funny. He listens to my show every single week. So I know I have at least one person watching. And that's how I fell in love with football.
Wow.
And Vince Lombardi.
So because of the 70s, back in the day, with your dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who's your football team now?
So my team has always been the same team, the New England Patriots.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh. My God. I'm a Steelers fan.
God rest your soul. You got some good players. Though I am a huge Bill Belichick fan, and it's not about a player. I have a Patriots room in my house. I also am a Boston Marathon bombing survivor. I witnessed 2013. I was in 2013. I've run Boston 6 times. So yeah. I'm a huge Boston fan, but they're not my hockey team.
Who is?
The Montreal Canadiens.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
fair.
All right.
Yeah.
You
But
have
I was
some
literally
stories.
in a sales meeting last week, and this guy had like a Philadelphia Flyers thing behind him. And I'm like, oh, Mario Lemieux. And he's like, Mario Lemieux? I'm like, I'm Canadian. That's the first word you have to say is like, go Mario. Like, it's like, if you don't, they take away your residency card.
Oh my goodness.
PJ Stock
is there
is a
anybody
buddy of mine.
asking?
I know he's doing some stuff with the Canadians, but Kyle is asking, how do I get my hands on your VA notes?
Oh, yeah, that I haven't even published those yet, Kyle. That's a great question. So let me do this. Let me turn it into a white paper and get it up on my website, and you can just get it for free.
Awesome.
That's incredible.
Awesome.
Do you have time for one more question, Susan?
Absolutely. As long as we can just, before I do that, back to Vince Lombardi, because I know you're all saying, why'd she say it like 50 times?
Yeah, I got a question about him.
It goes back to the scheduling thing, because Vince Lombardi used to say at the beginning of every season, gentlemen, this is a football, and you've got to have your priorities straight. Your priorities are God, family, football, in that order. And if you don't have your priorities straight, I'll kick you off the team. I don't care how good you are. And when I first heard that quote from Mr. Lombardi, I said, I'm going to run my life like that. So my priorities are going to be God, my family, and then business. And anytime I've been feeling out of balance or I've been not feeling well, it's because I had the order mixed up.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
We have a question from Stefan. Stefan, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening.
Hey,
David,
Stefan.
Rob. Hi, Susan. How are you?
I'm outstanding. How are you?
The first thing I'd like to mention is I love your headset. That is just a professional headset, right? You got right there.
Oh, thank you.
My question to you is, every business's challenge is growth. And what would be your number one business growth tool, as in lead generation? So Rob and David have done amazingly well with their building their network and creating so many more appointments in a month. What would be your input on that? What would be your number one lead generation method?
Yeah. It depends on what kind of business that you're in. What's your business, Stefan?
I'm in insurance, and I'm in supply chain financing.
Oh, supply chain. Right now, my friend, that's a dirty word because the chip shortage for me. But let me give you some advice. So if our business isn't growing the way we want, oftentimes we say, well, I need more leads, right? And the thing I would say first and foremost, because leads are easy to come by, you have to have that abundant mindset. It's not complicated, but the first thing to ask yourself is, am I innovating, and how am I setting myself apart from the competition? It goes back to the blue ocean, red ocean strategy. If you haven't read that book, Blue Ocean, Red Ocean, excellent book. So when you're in insurance, there are a lot of aspects of insurance. And, in terms of supply chain management and consulting, there are a lot of aspects of that. So how do you set yourself apart? So I'm just going to go through 4 things really, really quickly. The first thing that can never be discounted is your own network. So when I am looking at, I want to, grow the business, I want another multiple, 8-figure deal or whatever the case is, then I am going to go to my network first. I'm going to be crystal clear on who it is I'm looking for. And I will go to my network and say, who do you know? So who do you know who's the CEO of a hospital? Who do you know? And I only want to talk to decision makers, right? So that's the first thing. I look at my network. Number 2 is I look at my ideal avatar, and I will go back, Stefan, and I will create the ideal avatar. So who are they? What age are they? How long have they been in their career? And then where do they hang out on social media, and what are their pain points? Number 3, you're going to go to a website called Answer the Public. Answer the Public is a free service, and you go to Answer the Public and you look up, insurance or whatever kind of insurance it is you do. And you're going to see what their AI does is it scrubs all the search engines, Bing and Google and stuff. I don't know who uses Bing, but pretend people do. And they look at it, and then they see what are the questions people are asking about that. And that's what you create your blog posts on. That's what you create your LinkedIn posts on. That's what you're talking to that ideal avatar. So it's answerthepublic.com. And then the 4th thing is, I'm a big believer in A/B testing in my online lead generation. So one of the things that we look at, because when I went back into technology, as I said, I went hardcore into digital marketing. So when we're doing A/B testing, we're going to take our video ad. Video has a higher conversion rate for sales. It's almost 80% versus an image ad or a text ad. And then we're going to split test it with a very small amount of money, maybe $5 a day. And we're going to work the wording around that. We're going to see which one is performing better. If I were you, I'd probably be looking at YouTube as a modality. Facebook and Apple are still having a big iOS fight. I'm going to say something bold. I'm not Nostradamus, but I predict that Facebook and Instagram, as we know it, won't even exist in 3 years. Mark Zuckerberg owns a ton of VR technology. He wants to be in the metaverse. If you don't know what the metaverse is, that's a whole other topic. But that's where they want to be. They were never interested in recent history, us just sharing stuff on social media. So one of the things that I'm advising solopreneurs is take a good hard look at YouTube, because Google is not going anywhere in terms of ad revenue. And then also take a look at LinkedIn, which is ultimately owned by Microsoft.
What about TikTok? What about TikTok? I get a lot of leads off of TikTok.
Yes. So TikTok, the fastest growing user base on TikTok are people who are 40 plus. However, I want to disclaim this, because some of the AI that was created for TikTok, we don't know what data it's sending or what metadata it's sending. And there were even today coming out in the tech news that WhatsApp, there were some severe data leaks there. And then Facebook is like, oh, we're only sending out your metadata. And I'm like, you shouldn't be sending out my freaking data whatsoever. Signal had massive leaks. So if you don't care about your data privacy, TikTok all the way. But here's the question: who's still on Clubhouse? A little bit, right? But it's changing. So here's my prediction. The next biggest social media platform is something no one's heard of yet, because people are sick and tired of social media the way it is, and advertisers are sick of it. The other thing we're seeing, and I'm headed to the biggest digital marketing conference in the United States next week. I've spoken at there a couple of times. I'm just attending this year. But the thing I will say is there is a big movement towards old school direct advertising, and I'm talking postcards.
Wow. Interesting.
Yep.
Wow. Thank you for that breakdown. Jesus. That was
Stefan,
God,
I hope that you practice stenography, brother, because you literally just got like an MIT education in about 35 seconds right there. That is what we do on InfinityX.
That's right.
I mean, but this is like next level.
Susan is no joke.
You can just use a bunch of AI programs and transcribe this. So we do that with my podcast. We run it through AI. We put up the notes. Then there's another program. If you go to my agency site, agency8.com, there's a program we use that will write all your blogs for you. You just write a paragraph, and you can write in whatever so you have choices of the language. You can write like Oprah, Tony Robbins. You can write like Joe Rogan. You just tell it the style, and it takes your bullet points and it turns out a whole blog article. Like
That's incredible.
the
You do
world
that?
is changing, my friends. It's
Amen.
fun.
Just,
I mean,
yes.
Kyle just put into the chat. I've got to re-listen to this again and take more
Yeah, you
notes.
sure do.
We didn't even talk about crypto or markets. Like, boys,
So
I need to get on an airplane. There's so much we can have.
listen. I'd like to have another interview set up.
Yeah,
another call
absolutely.
after this,
Absolutely.
if that's okay.
Yep.
Listen, Susan, incredible. I know you're taking some time out to speak with us, and I'm sure a lot of people would love to hear about crypto. I'd love to redo this and have more people on the call, though.
I totally agree.
You know,
I totally agree.
we could
Take this to a bigger
if
stage.
it fits in Susan's schedule. Thank you for sharing everything. Unbelievable. I'm so grateful. I can't believe your story. You know, it's wife, mom, grandma, business, kick-ass business entrepreneur. You know, what you're breaking down and what's going on between Facebook, Instagram, what it looks like on because we believe in YouTube. Listen, we started our own channel, Epic Financial Strategies, a year ago, and we're getting organic, by the way, and we're approaching our 1,000 subscribers. You know, we're really working hard. Every day we bring in a new video with education, and then InfinityX also started its own YouTube channel this month. So I know the value of YouTube, especially when you repurpose your videos and, you know, play in the space of the other places. But to your point, Facebook and Instagram, it wouldn't surprise me 3 years from now if it's obsolete. And a lot of folks out there that are relying on just one place for your business, you can get caught if you're not keeping up with the innovative changes. And what you were just breaking down is incredible.
We didn't even talk about when I was homeless in 2000. That's a whole other topic. But yeah, I think the bottom line message
my
for
God.
everyone, and thanks everyone for the chat. Love you guys. And if there was something I didn't cover,
How long were you homeless for?
So I in the year 2000, I was diagnosed with progressive MS. 3 days later, I caught my then husband having some extracurricular activities. Alas, he's the husband. God love him. We're good now. 16 weeks later, I lost my business. And I ended up homeless on my brother-in-law's sofa. And 3 years later, I started a business that ended up making me millions of dollars. But I think that the biggest thing, my message that I hope everyone leaves with is that, you know, it doesn't matter what you're going through, it matters what you're going to. And I heard Joel Osteen say that. And, you know, thank you, gentlemen. You guys are great interviewers. It's been a lot of fun, but I just want to acknowledge everyone because you never know on a Tuesday night when you're going to tune into the show and get that one thing that really takes you to the next level. And then you get another thing that takes you to another level. We all have crap going on in our lives, but as entrepreneurs, we have to stay strong because I can promise you again, the future is not going to be the government saving people. It's going to be entrepreneurs hiring people.
That's right. I agree 100%. With that, thank you so much, Susan. I had a blast.
Me too.
I really enjoyed this. Love to connect offline and would love to have another interview.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, because
would
the
love
chat
it.
is absolutely blowing up saying we want more of this.
Aw.
The folks, the replay will be available on YouTube. You know, obviously we'll have to, you know, get the micro clips over to Susan, you know, for editing, et cetera. But Susan, it's been just an absolute honor and privilege to share the stage with you this evening. Rob, any finals, brother?
Just I'm feeling immense gratitude. Your message was incredible. I'm going to listen to and take a lot of copious notes and probably have a lot of questions for you.
Susan, last question from me. You have dinner with one person. Is it John Wooden or is it Vince Lombardi?
Oh,
Tune in next time.
hard. It's so hard.
John Wooden.
It's John Wooden.
Yeah.
Rob knew. Mhm. It was
John
John Wooden. Yeah.
And
Kyle's like, it's me. Yeah. Next time I
I
come
was going
back,
to say me as number 2.
next time I come back, we'll wear sports jerseys.
yes.
And then
yes.
And then we'll get like, there will be no holding back in that one.
Yes. I'll have my Steeler gear on. I'll be ready to go.
Okay. All right.
I'm ready to go.
Listen, I'm a giant. Susan, I'm a Giant fan, so you probably already hate me. But
No, I don't hate anyone. I don't hate it. Bad respect. It's people who stay with their team. I respect them more than anything.
That's right.
Amen.
As long as no one's a Seahawks fan, I can be okay with that.
And we'll build off that next time. But Susan, again, it has just been an absolute honor and privilege.
Just can I say one thing?
Please, Rob.
We've never had a repeat guest, just so you know.
Yep.
You would be our first repeat guest.
Yep.
Well, thank
So-
you. And hi to Kyle's wife, by the way. Shouts out to you.
Shout out to Kyle's wife. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to the entrepreneur that stayed with us for an hour and 20 minutes. Susan, you are a megastar, and we see our future in you, and we're so excited to continue conversation offline. But folks, this is InfinityX, where we give a stage and microphone to human excellence. You've been graced by Susan Sly this evening in so many different verticals. And until next week, Susan, thank you very, very much. And we will see you guys on another episode of InfinityX.